Hey everybody, it's Mama M. Welcome to week 4's video. Sorry I don't give them more creative titles, but I know when I'm trying to follow a series on YouTube, if they're not numbered, I just get super confused, and it's a lot easier to keep track of what's happening when if they're, easily titled as 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So this is week 4. The main question that I'm being asked is, how did I know that I was a witch? How did I become a pagan? Was I raised that way? The answer to that question is no. I was raised in a Christian-based household. We never were forced to go to church. My parents were just not church-going people because as kids they were forced to go to church, so as adults they just didn't really care to. We were all told, myself, my sister, and my brother, that if we chose to go to church, we were more than welcome to do so. It wasn't, frowned upon in any way. And my parents encouraged all of us kids to find our own path and, explore what we wanted to explore, and that they would be okay with whatever we wound up believing in. I went to a lot of Christian-based churches in my youth. I started, I believe, at a Lutheran church. I would go to vacation Bible study every summer for a week, and, I always had a lot of fun there, and I tried really hard to believe, in the basic Christian overview, but there was a lot of questions that I had, and it seemed like every time I asked a question to one of the higher-ups in the church, it got dismissed, or I got told that, you don't ask questions, you just believe. And in some cases, I'm okay with blind faith, but in that case, I just couldn't do it. So I wound up skipping around from church to church. By junior high, I was going to a Southern Baptist church with some friends from school, and I got asked not to come back to that one. I asked some questions, and I honestly don't even remember what they were. And I mean, these are innocent child's questions. I just wanted to know, well, how come this doesn't work out? Or, what exactly does this mean? And the youth pastor actually told me, we would appreciate it if you didn't return. So after a few experiences like that, I started to try and figure out, where exactly do I belong? By the time I hit high school, that's a really confusing time in any teenager's life, is the whole transition into high school. And I actually went to a high school where the majority of my friends did not go. The district that I was in put me in a high school where everyone I had gone to school with since kindergarten was going, but my parents opted to put me in what they thought was a safer high school across town. So, I went somewhere where I didn't really know anybody. There was like 2 people, I think, that I had any kind of contact with that I had known previously. So it was a little weird, and there was a lot going on. And I had started to see and hear things again, spirit-wise. That had all kind of been brushed under the rug from a very young age. I had imaginary friends, we thought at the time, and my parents would laugh because I would tell people, I have these friends and these are their names, and I had their whole life story planned out down to what kind of pets they had and what kind of cars they drove. And, come to find out later in life, as I started to have these kind of experiences again, these were not imaginary people at all. These were actual spirit friends who had, come to watch over me or, guard me or be a part of my life somehow as a child. And I have yet to see those spirits again, but I've encountered several other spirits in my life. So as that started to unfold again, I went to a couple of more different Christian-based churches, and once I would bring up the fact that I could see and talk to spirits, I would be treated like a crazy person. So about that time, I was taking a class in school in photography, and one of our assignments was to do a contact portrait, which, if you're not familiar with that term, means that you put something on a piece of photo paper and then expose it to the light. And what's supposed to happen is you'll have a black background everywhere that the light touched, and white background wherever the object was sitting on top of the paper, because the light didn't hit it, so it didn't develop. The assignment was to be creative, and I just could not find my creativity that day, so I put my hand on a piece of photo paper, and I exposed it to the light, and, the bell rang. So I wound up throwing it through the wash as quickly as I could, and then I threw the photo in my backpack and, forgot about it. So a few days later, we were having lunch, and I was digging my lunch out of my backpack, and the photo fell out. And a friend of mine at the time, she picked it up and said, "This is really cool. How did you do this?" And I thought, what do you mean it's really cool? It's my hand on a piece of paper, you know? So I picked it up and I looked at it, and there was a very clear image in purple, like someone had drawn it in there, and, you know, very detailed artwork. There was a woman in a turban sitting at a table, a big round table, with a crystal ball, and she had this weird grin on her face. And in the silhouette of my middle finger looked like a man walking through an open doorway. And it was creepy and weird, and I threw it back in my backpack and dismissed it again. So a couple of weeks later, I was cleaning out my backpack at home, and I showed it to my mom, and she said the same thing. "Look at this woman in the picture. How did you do this? This is really cool." And I told her I hadn't done that, and I didn't understand, you know, why it would show up. It should have just been a white piece of paper. And no matter how we tried to dismiss it as just you know, a random thing that happened because it was developed too quickly or it wasn't in the developer long enough, the picture was so clear. And everyone we showed it to said the same thing. They would pick the items out right away. The man in the doorway and the woman at the table with her crystal ball. It was just eerie. So, coming from a Christian background, you know, we kind of wondered if it was evil in any way, and we wound up burning it in the fireplace at our home. So, you know, I really wish I hadn't done that, but at the time it was just a kind of scary thing for our family, and we thought maybe getting rid of it was the best thing to do. So after that, I started to really wonder if there was something in me that, you know, I wasn't recognizing, if there was some part of me that would explain the reason why I could never fit into these Christian-based churches, and why I always felt a little bit different, and how I could talk to spirits and other people couldn't. And I wound up spending a lot of time at the public library. And I would check out tons of books on religion, and I just thought, you know, I have to find my place. I don't think that I belong, you know, in Christianity, because every branch that I've tried just, you know, makes me feel like I don't belong. So I read a lot of books on various religions, and one day a book on paganism literally fell out of the shelf onto my foot. And I picked it up and I checked it out. And as soon as I started reading it, I thought, oh my gosh, this is me. The communication with nature, the extreme ease with how I handle animals, the whole 9 yards. And, you know, being a medium is widely accepted in paganism. You know, the old world religion, if you get back to the roots, believes that pagans were just more in tune with nature and more in tune with surroundings and spirits in the other realm, or however you want to refer to it. So I just knew that I fit there. And by the time I figured all that out, I was about 15 years old, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I thought that is just a little bit too much for everybody to handle. And I don't want to be locked up in some loony bin somewhere when I come out and say, I think I'm a witch, and by the way, I can see spirits. So that's the basic rundown on how I discovered that I was a pagan and how I became a witch through the practice. The last 5 to 7 years, I've been very open about it. Everyone in my family knows. It took my sister a little bit to get used to the idea, but basically, once I explained to everyone, I believe the same things that you believe, I just believe them differently. And once I debunked the theories on pagans sacrificing animals and people to the various gods and, you know, devil worship and all of that garbage, once all of that was clarified that, you know, this is not at all what I do, people started to feel better about it. And especially since I moved to this little tiny town in northern Nevada, it's been a lot more widely accepted, which, you know, you'd think it would be the other way around. Coming from a huge city like Fresno, California, you'd think there would be so many different cultures that it would be more accepted, but it's not. And even when I was there a couple weeks ago visiting, I ran into Macy's because I needed a matte compact really bad, and I hadn't had a chance to get up to Reno when we were at home. So, you know, I told Tim, we have to go to Macy's, I need my compact, and I ran in, and I didn't even realize I was wearing my pentacle necklace because I wear it all the time. It's, you know, it's nothing to me. People here compliment me on it all the time. But I had several people stop and do this to me. What is that? What is she doing? What is with the black hair? And it's so crazy because, like I said, you'd think the big city would totally accept it and the small town would shun you, but it's completely the opposite that I found in my circumstance. And I could not be happier to have people come up and ask me, what does your necklace mean? And I explained to them, this is an ancient pagan form of protection, and it is what I use to shut off my ability to communicate with the dead, because I have to do my normal routine also. You know, I have to be able to take my kids out and go grocery shopping and, you know, take care of other things outside the house, and it's hard enough to keep an eye on the two of them running around and focus on what I need to do without spirits wandering over to discuss things. It's just easier to shut that off. So that's what my pentacle does for me. That's what I've designed it to do, is shut that off. And people have been very accepting to that. It's pretty awesome. So it's a good thing to be a pagan nowadays. The more honest and open you are about it, the more freedom you have to debunk those old wives' tales and stereotypes of, you know, witches from back in the day. And, you know, the more widespread pagans everywhere can be accepted, as long as we're vocal about what we're doing. The old be silent just isn't going to work anymore. You know, if we want to be able to pass this down to our children and raise another generation of witches, they need to not continue to be persecuted. This is hundreds of years old. People get over it, you know? So be vocal. If you are pagan, be vocal. Let people know that you are, and that, you know, it's okay to have an alternative faith. It's important for everyone to coexist peacefully. And as long as Christians aren't pushing their beliefs on you, you're not going to be pushing your beliefs on them. You know, open that line of communication, let people ask questions. And, you know, let's watch the whole world be a better place because of it. So this week, Kat is asking if I've ever put a spell on anyone. And the answer to that question is kind of yes and kind of no. I do spells for the public. It's part of the work that I offer on my website and through my Etsy site. You know, I have spells for bringing love into your life, balancing you out, bringing harmony to your home, curing insomnia, all kinds of things. And I have great reviews on them. You know, I really put hard work and dedication into my spell work. I'm not one of those fly-by-night people who's looking to make a buck and doesn't actually do anything spell-wise. It's something I actually do. Like last week in the video when I was showing you, I do spell work right there at the center island in my kitchen. So technically I do put spells on people, but only when they ask for it. I don't believe in curses or hexes. I know some witches do believe that, and some witches do practice that. I don't. I do follow the, as long as it harms no one, do what you will. And, you know, in the case of curses and hexing and all that nastiness, that would involve hurting people, so I just avoid it. Lizanne is asking how I make my solid perfume. I am not going to give you the ingredients. Again, like I told Kat last week when she was asking about how I prepare the lip balm, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. To make the solid perfume, basically I'm adding my ingredients together, and then the solid part of it comes from beeswax, melted down beeswax. And one of my new favorite products is the locket necklace, which is really awesome. So go to my website and look up Enchanted Locket. It is so gorgeous. It's a big black glass, multifaceted stone set in this silver tone setting, and it opens up and has these nice deep wells in it. So what I'm doing is offering it filled with either the Witch's Kisses lip balm, which is extremely popular, or the Enchantress solid perfume. So in order to make that version of the perfume even more solid, because we don't want it to melt and get on your clothes. You know, if you're wearing the locket, it's close to your body, so it's going to, you know, absorb some of your body heat. It's going to get a little bit soft. So I add even more beeswax to that one. So if you purchase the locket and you choose the solid perfume in it, that's why it's hard as a rock when you get it, because as it touches your body and warms to your body heat, we don't want it to melt. You know, and that's how that's done. This week I have a question from someone who calls himself the Male Wiccan, and he wants to know, what are the witchy things that you use the most? What are your favorites to use? I use my cauldron almost every day. It's a little teeny tiny cauldron. You saw it in last week's video. It's about 3.5 inches, you know, tall and wide, and it is by far my favorite item. I have this gorgeous, gorgeous crystal ball. Not ever used it. It's a decoration piece. It's behind me. I think you can see it up there. I have, oh my gosh, so many witchy things in my house. You can't walk into my house and not know something is a little bit off, because I have gothic pieces everywhere. As far as things that I use the most, though, and my favorite to use, as he's asking, would definitely be the cauldron. I love my little bits of everything jar candles. I have some on clearance today, so go and look on the Facebook page and see if you can get your hands on one of the clearance ones. They just didn't blend together right, so they're knocked down to half price. So with shipping, you know, you're getting a killer deal. My other favorite witchy items would include my tarot cards, which I just designed my own set of cards for my own personal use. On my website, www.mamaemsworld.com, you can look up in the search box for blank tarot cards. Best thing ever, especially if you do a lot of readings and you read for the public, because even after years and years and years of reading with a traditional deck, and even after my friend Erin convinced me to write notes on the cards so I didn't have to look everything up all the time, you know, it's still super time consuming, and the amount of readings that I'm being asked to do on a daily basis needed, you know, something to help streamline that process. So I got a deck of the plain ones. They have the crisscross blue background, just like the normal Rider-Waite tarot deck, which is what I have always used until now. And they're totally blank white on the other side. So I actually sat there, it took me 2 days, and I designed them myself with fine point Sharpie pens in different colors, and now when I do a reading, it's like bam, 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 it's done, and I can easily look at the cards, know what I'm doing, type up the response, and send it out to you. So you will notice if you've bought tarot card readings from me in the past and you buy one now, they are much quicker at getting back to you. That is by far my favorite witchy item at the current moment. So that's about it for this week, and I hope I've answered your questions. Please continue to let me know what kind of topics you want to cover, products you want to talk about, anything you want to see up close. I would be happy to do a show and tell. And I did promise my little girl Hope, who is 4, that she can be in next week's video. So if you have questions for Hope or questions you'd like Hope to ask me, feel free to submit them either here on YouTube, through my Facebook, or through the contact me link on my website, and I will get back to them as quickly as I can, and hopefully everything gets covered in next week's video. Thank you for watching, thank you for all of your continued support, and have a fantastic week.